Good morning, Amita. Bonjour. And we begin this new year again with our last interview together on work and physical education and some of your remembrances.
Yes. But the lines you recited just now, may we hear them once more?
Alive and clad with trees and herbs and flowers, Earth's great brown body smiled towards the skies. There are so many of these lines in Savitri. All nature was at beauty's festival. That whole passage with the liquid voice of the love-maddened koil, the brown bee muttering in the honey buds.
All nature dumbly calls to her alone to heal with her feet the aching throb of life.
And break the seals. Yes. And break the seals on the dim soul of man, and kindle her fire in the closed heart of things. Yes.
All here shall be one day, her sweetness is her own. All contraries prepare her harm.
There it is. There it is. All contraries. Yes. So we begin.
Yes, I think.
On work. Good.
On work in the ashram, it is exactly to harmonize all the contraries in each human being. Work in the ashram, right from our childhood, we knew was chosen by the mother for each member of the ashram, adult member of the ashram. So he or she might work out the best in his or her nature through the material work and contact with others without losing their own inner aim in life in the ashram, inner motive and inner connection with the mother. When we were children, we had always seen in all the departments a card which was printed. I will show you that card. Love the mother, behave always as if she is present.
The early days of the ashram, the correspondence with mother. So I keep these precious things for disciples to see.
When we were children, we saw this card
Just a second
in all the departments. You got it? And we really felt that both Mother and Sri Aurobindo were constantly with us and around the ashram surroundings. I may start my eagerness to work in the ashram with the help I gave to Sujata. She used to go to the dining room at that time, and at that time there were no filters, automatic, I think. You had to pump the water into the filter, and she used to pump the water into the filter. And I used to go with her And after the pumping was over, we would go in and have the evening meal around 6:15, so early. But she was above 15, 16 or more than that, and I was just 9 or so. And she would pump the water in. It was a hand pump like that. And I would go and I would say, now it is your turn. And we would see the water rise in the indicator, centimeter by centimeter on the... So she was a little dreamy, and she went and sat out, and I pumped, and I was a very small girl. And after some time I said, oh, I'm tired. I used to call her Ranidi. I'm tired, Ranidi. She said, why? Why so soon? Do a little more. And so I had to pump a little more, and then she would come after that. And that was my first work in the dining room. After that, I did wiping in the dining room. Mother gave that work, and I learned a great deal. The sadaks used to sit, and I would sit beside one of them, and there were two wiping sets. First, the wet vessels would be brought and put on the table, and we would call it first wiping. And that would go into the next round, and that would be the second wiping, would be the final. And this sadak used to give me always the spoons in a big tumbler to wipe. And I wanted to wipe the big dishes. And so I told him, why always the spoons for me? So he said, you have small hands, and so you can wipe them well. Then after a little pause, he said, and when I wipe the spoons, I don't get the right type of thoughts in my mind. So that opened my eyes, because I had come to the ashram deciding that I would be an ashramite. I had to be like an older sadhak. So I said, oh, acha, that means what you think of when you are working is also very important. Then one day I had to wait. I was asked after the wiping to set the tiffin carriers in order. At that time, I've told you, Ravindraji used to draw the tiffin carriers in a cart and leave in each house wherever it had people did not come to the dining room for food. So those tiffin carriers had to be arranged in order so that the dining room counter people would be able to serve quickly. So they always knew the same tiffin carrier would be in the same place. Now the person in charge gave me a chart and said, I was 9 years old, gave me a chart and said, you have to put these in order. After 2 days, he found that I didn't have the chart in hand. Did I tell that story also?
Yes.
And he was very surprised I put them in order. I loved that job. And when the school started in 1943, I had asked my mother what will happen to the work mother has given me. And that also I think I have spoken of. And my wiping work shifted to the evening. There was no playground at that time. We used to play carom or kabaddi on the terrace, and often I would fall down and I would have scratches, and really the skin would come off. And I learned that the marigold leaf is like
Antiseptic.
medicine, and
Yes.
it has healing power, and especially there's no infection. And so it used to burn, but there were marigold potted plants there. I would put them, and I would come to the dispensary where the doctor would bandage it, and I had to limp a little bit. It was during World War II. So right under Sherbido's window, we all worked very spontaneously. So I used to say, wounded soldier. So I like to call myself a wounded soldier. And everyone laughed. And another way of giving us some exercise was watering a garden. Mother said they are young, they must have some exercise. And so she arranged for us to water a garden.
I see.
And that which is atelier now, office, that used to be a residential quarter. And there were along the wall these mined trees, very tall trees, and just that much of space in soil. It was a raised cement area. So we went and watered there also. We watered also the other garden, where Amar Singh used to look after,
Yes.
and he used to have pots of receptivity, gladioli, and he was very strict, and he would say you tie the right number and the name, see if you have tied it well to a little stick, so that the plant wouldn't fall. Now when I went to water this other area beside the atelier next, I saw this much space. So I asked, why can we plant Sri Aurobindo's compassion flowers there? Now everyone laughed because compassion flowers are usually sunlight flowers, and this was all in the shade. Another plant I wanted to plant, and I did plant both, was hibiscus. That is also loves sunlight. And strangely enough, both of them flowered. And for a long time they had kept the hibiscus. Even when I grew up and I had gone there for some job, they said, see, your hibiscus is still here. But after that, all that was removed for the generator room they have created. That is the starting of my work, and at that time I had heard that in the school our first batch of students would become teachers. So within a year, I told you, Mother asked me to take up drawing, that I've explained, and arithmetic in French.
Give up watering the plants?
Watering the plants? Earlier. When the school started, we didn't have time to do that. And soon after that, the playground also was functioning. Earlier, the playground was bought, but it was not yet used as any games. We used to just cross it from the main school, which is the gymnasium now, bodybuilding gymnasium. We used to come across that area to other classrooms that were here. It is quite a detailed story. The more interesting part of it is that I happened to be good in French, and I had written very well some dictations and all. And we had a very good French grammar teacher who gave extraordinary exercises for French grammar.
What was the name?
Ah,
The person?
Motayan. Motayan. He was a person of the local town, but he used to live in the old guest house, and he used to come in his Tamil dhoti and always white and always with a slight smile, always on the right time. If anybody was late, he was very strict. And we had with him strange work to do. He asked us to learn ordinary paragraphs of French by heart. Much later I understood that inculcated in us the structure of the French sentence, because it is very different from English and all. The other work we had done with him was writing a dictation with straight away changing the subject. He would dictate in first person singular, I have been doing, and we had to write at the speed of the dictation, first person plural, we. And in French, the whole conjugation changes, and the whole, adjectives or other verbs and all that changes. So you had to do it at the speed of the dictation and change at the same time. So really the basics of French grammar you mastered at that time. Among the teachers we had also Sri Charu Chandra Datta, ICS, who was a friend of Sri Aurobindo's in Baroda, yes, no, not in Baroda. Had met him in, I forget the name of the place, where Sri Aurobindo had gone to visit him. And I have a text giving a description of him. I'll read it out with the recitations.
Tomorrow.
Day after?
Tomorrow, Saturday.
Oh, Saturday afternoon. Yes, tomorrow. I'll read it out. Whatever I have to read out, I'll read out tomorrow.
Very
And we will insert it in the right place. When they came for darshan, Sri Aurobindo was seeing them after 18 or 20 years. And they used to sit for darshan, as we have seen in the picture. And we used to cross in front of them. And Nirodha had asked Sri Aurobindo, how did you find them, sir? So he said, Leelavati, Charu Chandra's daughter's wife, I recognized very easily. But that moved away, I recognized by his, I will give the right word afterwards, by his aquiline nose or something like that. And we had heard that Charu Datta was a little shy to show, to come in front of Sri Aurobindo at that time, because he was an ICS man and he couldn't help fully the freedom struggle movement, though he helped Sri Aurobindo as best as possible. Something like that had happened. But then something very interesting happened. He gave to the mother. He was very much Indian and did not like foreigners very much. But when he came, he bowed down to the mother, and he had said he saw the Divine Mother in her. And Sri Aurobindo said, so Charu did bow down to the French lady, because he used to call her like that outside of ashram. So
I wanted to ask you to tell us when you heard Sri Aurobindo's voice, what was it like?
I hadn't heard Sri Aurobindo's voice actually, only single sentences, if at all. You know, when we were reciting or when we were working upstairs, only single sentences.
Yes, but you heard
But
it.
very sweet. Very, you know, the voice contains the mellow tone of the consciousness. So you could feel that. Single sentences I think I had overheard, but we had never heard. We had only seen the effect of his influence, consciousness and help all the time. Like the one I have spoken of, you know, he said from his room, shut your eyes, and I shut my eyes and I found myself in front of the rear gate of our house because I had lost the way. Some things like that I have spoken of.
His voice was like Englishman, his accent.
Huh?
His accent was like Englishman or something different. Sri Aurobindo's voice, his way of speaking was like an Englishman or something different.
Nirodha has described it as the perfect English diction, and he knew so many languages. So I have told the story of my reading the story of the siege of Troy, and from his room he had said, how did you pronounce the name Menelaus in the Greek way? And well, that is a long story because the time I'm speaking of, we all knew about past lives, you know. And actually speaking, when Mother was working on the ashram on her own, a little later than my dining room work, when the school started about what have I written? Oh yes, before the school started, I have talked about the wiping department just now, and Mother's work for correcting our French notebooks, which is really a proof of the correctness of detail, consciousness in the detail, every detail of one's work, and therefore one's life. And as I told you, the sadhak said, if I wipe spoons, the wrong thoughts come to me. So every detail, you know, had to be looked into. And as we have said here, that Mother, when you looked at Mother or Sri Aurobindo, you knew that they were looking inside you. It was not just a superficial thing. And they were looking inside you, and after darshan, you would feel that something from within has got a happy light, and as if everything has become more clear, much more yourself.
I know you're diverging a bit, but I also wanted to ask you about balcony darshans and the old balcony. If you could tell us a little about those experiences, those morning darshans.
Morning darshan, I think I have said in one place that it became a darshan only in 1941 or so, when we came and Mother chose this house for us. But in 1940, I had seen with Chitradi, the mother in the balcony, in the early morning hour, simply out there to look at the sunrise. But afterwards it became a regular darshan, and people liked it very much, because before going for work, everyone went for duty by 7:30, and before going for work they would have Mother's darshan. And I had the opportunity of working inside the first floor with the fruits. I worked with the fruits. Actually, it happened in this way. 1 year before 1950, I think it was 48, 47 or 48, there was a bumper crop of papayas. And it was decided that slices of the papaya or the papaya fruit would be given. And Ravindra ji was given the charge, and he called me for distributing the papayas. Perhaps because my parents used to send, when they had not yet come here, fruits from Mother in Sri Aurobindo, right from the north of India, special fruits and other fruits. They would come in packing cases, pear, apples, tomatoes, all that. And maybe that was the reason why I was connected with the fruit section.
So you mean to say fruit room started around 47? Fruit room officially?
Officially not yet. It was just distributing the fruits. Ravindra ji was already in charge of the certain parts of the dining room and the working. His rooms were not yet on the upstairs where they are, where there is a formal fruit room. And that's what I mean. When the fruit distribution started, I was connected with it, and I had to carry fruits. At that time the fruit room was there. I would carry down the stairs the fruits and arrange them in what is known now as Puja Lalji's room. There were the similar racks. On the front part of it were the racks for the... I had to arrange them in alphabetical order, and Mother was distributing to some people baskets full of fruits. And those baskets and those bags I had to keep inside the corridor, the first floor corridor, so which Mother would cross for the balcony. So this work I did before Mother came to the balcony. I used to go in, and on the carpet I had to spread a thin light blue strip of cloth. One could still walk on this side, and on that strip of cloth I used to leave the trays and baskets that Mother would have to distribute when she came down to the meditation hall. You know, Mother's timings changed. This I'm speaking of after 50, 51, 52. And Champaklalji used to take those from the corridor to downstairs. We have photographs of Champaklal standing beside the Mother in the meditation hall where Mother is distributing. He used to see that Mother would have the right basket or the right bag in hand when the person came. So one day he said, I will take before you. That is, there was like a competition between Champaklal and me. And I had just started placing the trays in the corridor, and by the time I came back with the other one, he was already up there waiting for me to come. And he said, see, I have defeated you. I have won. And after the baskets and bags were taken downstairs for the meditation hall distribution for Mother to give, I would roll up the blue sheet and put it back under one of the tables there. Sometimes Champaklalji himself would roll up for me. And I was there, so in the corridor when Mother would come for balcony darshan. And this was when Mother was not seeing anyone personally in the corridor. For a long time, Mother had seen me in the corridor personally. I think I told you this story. I had been ill and Mother had asked Champaklalji to keep a protection bunch every day for me, and she used to give me this physical consciousness turned to the divine and the protection, and afterwards she would give me a whole bunch of bouquet of flowers prepared, made at the flower room. Every day she would give me a bunch of flower, and one day I was thinking, what is Mother gives me? She comes round, picks up the bouquet and gives me the bunch, which flower is meant for me. And that day I was thinking, that day when Mother came, she took the bouquet and put her hands on the sunflowers. Consciousness turned to the divine. That was the special one for me. And about the transformation, I've said, she used to often give me 5. And very strange incident was with the oleander flower. Did I speak about the surrender of falsehood? No.
No.
No. Well, I liked the fragrance very much. So one day I had taken to her a handful of surrender of falsehood. She said, Chunana Pabaswa, you don't need it. And she took them from me in her own hands, but I need it, she said. So it made me think. Then I said, oh, acha, she is clearing the falsehood of the whole ashram consciousness. And so she had to give it for action of the Supreme's light on that. So I think that is what it meant, but I need it. For me it meant that. After that, there was also the aspiration flower, which she had given me one bunch. We were standing, she didn't see me alone at that time anymore. We were all together in the, Champaklalji has written about it in his notes, who were the people standing in the corridor when Mother came for the balcony. And it used to be Kollan Chaudhary, myself, Mrityunjoy, Jayantilal, Sujata, and in the corridor, and in the inside Frigidaire rooms, it would be Sumitra, Suprabha, and further in would be Abhay Singh, Naren Singh, and Pavitra. And then she would go, she would say bonjour to everyone, and she would go to the balcony after that. So one day, I think Abhay Singh, I hope he will not mind my saying it, he spoke a little loudly while Mother was in the balcony. And he was speaking to Pavitra, I think, for some work or something. Mother came back from the balcony and gave him one slap. And Mother said, you don't know That is, she needs total silence for concentrating on the whole ashram community at that time for starting their work. I will tell you afterwards, she has explained what she used to do during the playground concentration. So I think it was something similar she was doing. And Sujata ji was very self-conscious about it, and she said to me not to consider it as a bad point for against amassing or something like that. So she said, you see, only those who are very close to her, she can take such an act. But we were all very, very close like that to the mother at that time. And I never thought a second time about it. When she said, I said, yes, it is true. I should say a word for mother seen in her negligee, not at all formal, seated on a poof in front of her dressing room twice. I had seen in exactly the same posture. Once it was with Mona Pinto for arranging baskets for Christmas. And she was directing Mona which basket should have whatever gift she was sending. To all those who practiced Christianity or were familiar with Christmas and Christmas Day celebrations, she used to send special gifts for them. She looked up and she saw me standing and watching her. And just then she told Mona to give a basket for Olga. As she worked with Olga, and I thought from then on a certain rapport developed between us. I thought it was something special. Another time when I had seen her absolutely like that, seated exactly on the same spot near her, in the corridor, a little away from her own salon room, nearer to her dressing room, working with Vasudha Ben. I was wondering what she's doing, and much later I saw a big brown envelope beside me on the table near which I used to stand for Mother's balcony, walk to the balcony. I saw my name written in Mother's hand, and I was so curious to know what is inside that bag. But I checked myself not until Mother gives herself. So at that time, Mother gave to each one of us who were seniors, and I was already 21 or something like that. She gave her own saris because she decided that she wouldn't wear saris anymore. So she gave away her saris, and mine was white georgette. I have given it to Sri Shriti, where they are supposed to have kept it, with a silver border, and the blouse also was in keeping with the sari, same cloth. And somebody told me she has given you white because she always sees you on the stage at Savitri in white. Then, whatever that may be, I was told by Vasudha Ben, the embroidery in charge, that Mother had worn that sari quite a few times, and that the embroidery was the design done by Shonji Bonda of seaweeds, and it was done in silver. Seaweeds done in silver. It is just extraordinary. And the embroidery was done by Vasudha's friend, Anasuya. So it was very special, and I was afraid of keeping it too long in the house. We had worn it on a particular day fixed by the mother, and you can't explain how I felt. I can't explain now. When I wore that sari, it was as if it was a cloud of light, and it was something that was around me as a protection and as a very soft feeling of love and compassion, It was an extraordinary feeling. And I wondered for a long time how to wear my achal, my pallu, because there was a design on the pallu. Then I just left it like that. Afterwards, I heard mother liked very much the way, Bhattida's sister Bhavatarini, she was one of the captains. She had worn it because she had worn it bringing the pallu here and sticking it here, so the whole design was seen. So from after that, what I used to do, I used to wear my saris and tuck in the other side on here, so that behind me you could see the whole design of the pallu. But she was very particular about the way ladies and young women would behave, and she told my sister, who was a captain of the group, that she had heard that girls took off their kitty cap, to cover their head, and came with their plaits hanging back from the sports ground cycling or going. She said, no, it is not to be done. The kitty cap has to be worn. And many visitors who saw our young women in kitty caps had said it is very dignified, for sports women to have a covered head like that. Mother wore usually a scarf like that for the Bakri darshan and all. But kitty cap she wore for her tennis. And she showed some people how to wear the kitty cap. And she had said that when the girls wear their kitty cap, it brings out their facial, their physiognomy, their features much better, which are sort of enhanced by the hair, if you keep the hair open, or if you do up a hairdo, then it is part of the face. Whereas here covered, only the face she liked to see. She said it brought out the face very much. We all read about how the features, not mine anymore because they are not mine, how the features express the quality of the character of the person. I had read in one of Rabindranath's short stories that he says even more than the features, the voice tells us the quality of the person. And mother, one evening, kept watching everybody's feet when they crossed. She didn't look up at us, and afterwards she had said she was trying to see the character of the person on looking at her, watching the walk and the feet. So there are ways and means of knowing people which we don't usually think of and stop at surfaces. And you know, the great artist Abanindranath Tagore used to call it the mask. He told his students that everyone wears a mask. The real person is behind that mask. And so he always insisted on bringing out the real character of the person. And he had told one of his students, or in one of his lectures, he had given a series of lectures on Indian art. During British times, he had been invited to give lectures on Indian art, I think in Bengal School of Art or something like that. There he gave his lectures in English, and we all, I don't know exactly in which language, but I have read them in English. And very interesting point is that when you draw the figure of a woman, he was describing to one of his students, on seeing the figure, we should be able to say whether she is a queen or she is the maidservant. You can't paint only the picture. We must be able to distinguish between the people, their features, expressing what they are within, something like that. Well,
we wanted to finish up with the physical education.
Physical education started in a very natural way of people, children playing in the playground and all that. Then we had boys and girls, so the girls used to play volleyball on the side ground, and there was the main ground and all that. But when Pranabda took charge and mother started coming, we had a test of girls, which was actually a national test, a 10 minutes test. And there was balancing, there was skipping, and Pranabda took all the girls through that test. But after that, he and his own coach, Virendra, took up the boys and the girls, and we were a whole long group of ladies and young girls in white shorts and shirt at that time. Our first march past in front of Sri Aurobindo on the 24th of April was in 1949. And
he was seated in that little room in the alcove?
Yes.
With mother?
With mother.
With mother.
And we had to march past in front of him. And the first year we had gone in long pajamas, you know. And the second year we had gone in shorts. And he had praised the girls' group. He had said the girls were very smart, because we were asked to march and not really go for darshan. We were to march and we had to do eyes to the right where he was sitting. And about Chitradi, he had said, and their captain was very, very smart too. And when we had also gone another year in shorts, when our uniform changed. And we were very proud, because not only in the shorts, but the previous year also, we could go for darshan twice because we went for
In 1 year.
that one same day.
Oh, the same day?
Because we went for March Past in the uniform, and mother herself had given us sari for darshan. So the girls, someone told mother, oh, what about the darshan sari, we want to wear it. So we would come back, change our uniform into sari, and go back for darshan in the line.
This was 1949 or 50?
Both.
Both, 49 and 50. I see.
So there was another thing that we did at that time. There were many people, so more and more people stood there, left their sandals in front of the ashram. Did I speak about that?
No.
And it looked rather shabby to have so many sandals on the pavement beside the ashram gateway. So it was arranged that there would be racks in bamboo on the exit side of the garage. People entered through the main gate, followed the queue, and sat in the ashram courtyard, and they would be called in by batches. And we, as students of our school, already reaching high course, we were told to take the sandals from the main gate. We would put the sandals in one another, give one token to the person and one token in the sandal. And I was one of those who would carry the tray of the sandals from the gate to the exit. That we did by turns. And at the exit, on the racks, there were the token numbers. And according to the numbers, we would put the sandals. And when they would come back from darshan, they would show us the token, and I would, or others, we were 6, I think, who would put the right pair in front. My most important understanding of people came at that time. We had adults who said, why give this work to our students? Then after thinking, they themselves corrected their thoughts. It will make them humble and more dedicated to work. But my own experience was something quite different. I saw a group of people in white khadr, a whole line, and short upper dress, which had a belt and some frill-like things. And I said, who are these people? Then they said, farmers from Gujarat. Much later, I connected the two. When Sri Aurobindo was in Baroda, he had done some work for the organization of the Gaikwad's kingdom, which included the different categories of people. It could have been connected with that. But what I noticed at that time was that the eyes of these people were really expressed total astonishment, worship. They had really seen the eternal in a human face, you know. So I knew that it was not the category of the person, where you were born or who you were. It is what you could receive from them for your own consciousness. That's what had to count. To end here, I would add one little surprise bit. Suddenly, after the work was over, I was called to see Ravindraji. And he used to stay beside the prosperity room, which uh, he had. The fruit room and his adjacent room were built afterwards. So at that time I was called, I was very surprised. And there he was sitting on a chair, and with Anuben, who was his good friend, was standing behind, and they were laughing away. Said, "You are tired, you must have this." So they gave me a cold bottle of skimmed milk with a little cocoa or something in it. It tasted just, absolutely delicious, heavenly, after all that work. But at first I had a little hesitation because we were used to drinking from glasses and in the dining room from animal tumblers. Here it was a bottle, and so a bottle with a wide rim. But it was the first introduction, my first introduction to Ravindra. And then on I started working. I told you the papaya distribution, and afterwards getting connected with the fruit room work. All that I did with him. And one day when I was coming up to the fruit room, then the actual fruit room was there, and Ravindra's and Anu's room were upstairs. I was coming with an empty tray, as usual, very casually. Suddenly I saw Mother there in the fruit room, and I was so surprised. And Mother started laughing. Mother was choosing fruits for Debu. And Debu was standing beside. And Mother was choosing the fruits personally for him. And after Debu took his fruits and went away, Mother stood and looked around and said, "It feels like a boat, as if you are on a steamer. It feels like a boat." And then she left, and I looked around and I said, all these glass paned windows and the vibration of the motor, for the cold room, all that gave you the sense of being on a steamer, on a ship. So that is what Mother.
What did you do later years? What kind of sports did you do?
For sports, Mother had noticed me for rhythmic gymnastics. We had done a drill of a Swedish drill. There was a lady here we knew as Madeleine, who taught us a Swedish drill done by the Swedish team in Belgium, I think. And it had the orders recorded in Swedish by the composer and the instructress of the Swedish team. And Madeleine was in touch with her. We picked up the drill, and it was to be done with music. And we had no long playing records, we had no tape recorders. She had to get these 78 RPM records and play them. And we had to practice so many times that she had to get 3-4 sets. They used to get one.
They would wear out, yes.
But the lady said she was feeling very proud that 16 Indian girls were going to follow her orders. And the orders were in Swedish, and her diction was very beautiful. And this last 2nd December, they did certain movements from there, but the charm of it was not there. So I have suggested that if I can help some of the girls to do it with the real music and the real voice. And I used to love saying it myself, Framut, Bakut, Framut Run, Bakut, Framut, backward rund, forward, forward circle, backward, forward, backward circle. That was the first drill. And we did in different rhythms, waltz and folk dance rhythm and tango. And the tango was very beautifully arranged. Nothing to do with the tango dances as we know, but followed the first beat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, like that, And what was very interesting is this change of rhythm and change of music for the different parts of the drill. The other drill we had learnt from this lady, Madeleine, was a ball drill which the Swedish team had won first ranking in the London Olympics, I think. First Olympic Games after World War II, 1948. And she managed to get the film strips that were taken to show the girls which one was not going together with the others. It was just a practice thing. And she asked me to work out. And I used to work out on the viewer, the sequence, and the connect, this step, I have seen this step there, so this part must be joined to that part. And I was quite absorbed in that work. And Vishwanath, who used to arrange for me to work that out, before Mother came back from her tennis to the playground. And he would be on duty because it had to be done secretly. Because on Pranabda's birthday, we used to do drills and compositions of our own, hiding, where he wouldn't know. He knew that they would be doing something, but Mother would tell each captain, my sister, Mona, Tara, all these people separately, you are going to get ready and for Pranab's birthday. And on Pranabda's birthday, we used to do these drills, and the blue ball drill was a very special feature for us. We learnt a great deal, the handling of the ball, and I think part of it is filmed in the ashram documentary. But I'm told that the wrong people have been brought into prominence. That is, those who didn't do so well. But then we composed drills ourselves, and the most important feature was what we call the wave movement. And when I composed a dance or part of a drill, I used to very quietly listen to music, and in my head I would see dots of light, And if I saw dots of light which were moving in one direction, I could transmit it on the ground drill with that sort of a formation change. And this idea of formation, different formations during drill, was introduced by Chitradi, my sister, with the help of Maniben, Kumod, Kusuben, and then we wanted to do a very special thing, wave, how to bring about the wave, and it was like a discovery, and we were in a circle. We would start 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and next one, 8 would go together, 7, 6, 5, 2, 1, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And like that, as they started together, it became a full-fledged wave. Before doing the wave, we did some movements in
It's there in the
circle.
video.
It is there in the video.
Yeah, it's the mother's symbol in front of.
Mother symbol was the last one. And wave drill, we finished with mother symbol. And I used to always laugh because I slide in. I was one of the 4 petals inside. So we were in a circle and then I had to slide in there. Mother called it in the bulletin, Roue Vivante, the living wheel. So
When did this demonstration for Dada's birthday started?
I can't quite remember, but I think 1949, before 1950 already, most probably. I'm not very sure.
And whatever the dues they did on his birthday, I heard that they were adapted for the 2nd December.
We chose for the 2nd December, whatever we had done in October for Pranabda's birthday. It used to be selected there. And the mother would say Bon Fête, Pranab, and we would all shout. And I told you for my sister also one year, she had chosen what each captain, we were 10 vice captains with my sister, what each captain would say. À notre cher capitaine, à notre sœur Chitra, and things like that. And mother said at the end, Bon fait, I'm a vrai enfant, Chitra, my true child, Chitra. And it was really a very great day for all of us. And as I said, she had chosen the phrase for each one. And Ray Enfant, mother had also written to me once. I have it in writing from her. So she told someone who had questioned her that all those who she called her children like that, even in the air, she would say, people who were like part of her consciousness and who were working for her work, for the realization of her work here.
Can you tell your some of the contact with Dada?
With Dada?
Anything that you remember?
Pranabda came here when I was a little child. There was no playground, and some people used to call me to do nursery rhymes. And because as a child I had learned some nursery rhymes, and I had, I used to do for them, I remember, one or two. One was, the train is off to London town, London town, London town. The train is off to London town, blow, God, blow. The children laugh and jump to see, jump to see. You know, like that with each gesture, you had to do a gesture. I also did often, little Jack Horner sat in the corner, eating his Christmas pie. He put in his thumb and pulled out a plum and said, what a good boy am I. You know, I used to sing such things. One of the things which I don't quite remember is one which caught Pranabda's imagination very much, because we go around the mulberry bush. This is how we wash our clothes, and this is how we, I don't remember at all. And when he used to see me, he used to say, wash our clothes, or he used to laugh at me like that. Then, much later, when the athletics was still in the tennis ground, he trained me individually for tennis, for athletics. We used to run round, I think I talked about it the other time. We used to run round the tennis ground 4 or 5 times. He would make me do a few warming up movements, and he would go in for his own exercises, and I would practice discus. That he taught me. The next thing he taught me was a set of exercises with dumbbells, with weight training, some weight training. He drew up a special chart for weight training for whoever did it under his guidance. For Chitradi, it was one chart. For me, it was another chart. And there was also the captain's exercises. He did his own dumbbell barbell exercises in front of Mother thrice a week. And in the playground, Mother would sit and watch him do his exercises, then go back home and to the ashram. So I remember one day, I entered a little late. I had come back to the house. I changed into my salwar kameez. I had maybe some class or something. And I went to the playground. And Mother looked at who was entering and told Pranabda, add one more. So she was making him lift the barbell, the weight of, for one weight for each of the captains who he had to guide. I think that was the reason why. As I entered, she said, add one more.
He could lift?
He would lift. He would do the snatch lift or the other lift. And the captains all sat, lined up were in a circle, around Mother's chair where she would be seated. Pranabda would be guiding the exercises, call out for the exercises of all of them. And I was very bad at dips and arm exercises, but I was very good with the leg exercises. And he used to ask Lalu Bhai, Lalu Bhai had done exercises with Purani ji and all in Gujarat. So he had shown some special lunge jump exercises, and there was one I think Pranabda used to call Hanuman jump, because it was like a monkey jump. And there was another which we named simply for the speed and the movement, Gitti Gitti. And that was, you are sitting squat with one knee up, and then you jump from one heel to the other in seated position, sitting on your heels. And I did it rather well. And Mona wanted to show off one day. He was one of the captains. He wanted to show that he could do more than all of us. So he went on, and Mother went on watching like that. He was on Mother's left-hand side, the third person, I think, and we were on that side, and we were also watching. Then after he went till beyond 120, or I don't know how many he had done, but he couldn't stand up. He just fell back on the floor, and we shouldn't have laughed, but we all laughed. But the care with which Pranabda took everyone's exercises through was really very worth mentioning. It was unimaginable. That is, for each one, somehow, I don't know how, maybe Mother must have also inspired him how to give for that person's physical health the right type of exercises.
For each one it was different.
Those who were doing weight training for him, with him in the gymnasium, for each one it was different. We had also, arranged for us captains' classes. When we became captains and a group was formed, he said to Mother that captains have to have a theoretical knowledge. Mother had made Pranabdha read aloud Sri Aurobindo's books to him and certain books on physical education also, based on one of which we have what a child should always remember, the ideal child. It is a variation of something they had read in one of the books. And Pranabdha had read out to Mother when our captains group formed and we decided to meet once a week. He said first history of physical education. So each one of us was given a subject. Mine was history of education, physical education, Egypt and Mesopotamia. I think I spoke of it? No. I wrote out looking at the bas-reliefs and at the artifacts, of Mesopotamia. You have the drawn carts which children played with. So from there you deduced that at that time they must have already had carts with the hub and the axle. So I worked that out from the pictures, and he liked my article of physical education in Egypt and Mesopotamia. For Egypt, I had read a children's poem. Boys ran a race in Egypt once or something. So I said, it's true. Everyone has played games and they ran races. So my starting point was there. And in Egyptian bas-reliefs, you have bas-relief of fishing. They give many bas-reliefs are there of fishing. And I'll see if I can get a picture or two. And Pranabdha had read out mine to Mother and had said, Mother, she has a research scholar's mind.
You have the articles?
They had appeared in the bulletin, without our names, but they had appeared in the bulletin.
If you have a copy of it, one day then give it out.
We will see.
Well, shall we meet then tomorrow at 2:30?
Tomorrow at 2:30.
We look forward to this, to your reading Sri Aurobindo.
Yes.
Yeah, it's been a long visit and you must be tired, but we thank
I
you
didn't
so much.
expect today,
Yes, it's like that though. It just, it happens, I think. Remembrances are triggered, beautiful experiences. You've had so many, Amita Di. We thank you so much.
For teaching also,
Yes, teaching, we didn't.
there is so much to be said, Mother was very particular about French, and I was chosen as the head of the Board of Studies of French with Tanmay. And she asked us to select passages from different authors, saying all the passages which have an aspiration and a vision of life. So that we had done, but unfortunately she wanted the whole thing published in our ashram. They started publishing in in sections and only 100 copies for private circulation. They could have done that for the whole selected passages, because it was really a very dedicated work from all the French teachers, but it was not done.
Did you have something on the other side?
No, other side is your
You got
text.
it. Okay.
Yes, I think a little bit for the children's classes would be interesting, that I had worked out Sri Aurobindo's sentence: we must first interest the child in life, works and knowledge. I think I have spoken of it, but I had worked out a whole set of things that they could observe around them. The plants, how is the coconut palm different from the banana, and how is the this flower, a rose, known by, how can you understand it, by the leaves, and what is the difference between the service tree and the realization tree, you know, copper pod and gulmohar. The leaves are very close, but there is a difference. And then they themselves showed me the difference in the bark of the leaves of the trees, how they felt different. And so there were some very interesting things like that. And I had a chameleon. Did I tell you about it?
No.
We had a chameleon which used to come on the rockery there, and it was a big chameleon, and I would go out for attending my classes at about 2:30, and it was there, and I could really feel that it was smiling. And I would talk to it a little bit, and I would go. When I came back at 4, twice or thrice it happened. I said, "Where are you? Where are you?" And he had changed his color with the rockery, same as the rockery, so I couldn't see. And so a sort of a friendship happened. And with the children, I had gone botanizing in a garden near dining room, and they were frightened when they saw a chameleon. I said, "Don't be frightened, it won't do you harm." So I talked to the chameleon, and I said, "Don't be frightened, they won't harm you," and it stopped. And the children were just surprised, said, "Understood what you said. The chameleon understood what you said." And well, it was like that. I wanted to show a photograph. If I can get it, I would bring it to you on another occasion when you come to take a few stills of my paintings. Or did you take them already? No, not yet.
No, not yet.
So I have a picture of a cat on this very table. My mother had said it looks as if the cat is meditating on me, because mother's picture was there and it came. So I will try to find that photograph also. This is the main thing that we have learned, whether at home or in the street or in the school or in the playground, all the movements of the physical body and had to be conscious, genuine, and the more you tried to be conscious and genuine, all sorts of self-centered reactions just evaporated from your consciousness. And it was a very great grace of hers that almost every 1st of December I had to do a role on the stage, and I learned much from there, and I took it always as my work on the stage for my children. And the year Mother stopped going to the theatre hall, we had done Monsieur Jourdain and Madame Jourdain, Molière's comedy, Bourgeois Gentilhomme. Udar had done the bourgeois, Arete had done Madame Jourdain, I had done their daughter, Lucille, and Shrimai herself had done the most important, one of the roles, but of the lover, the lover who had, the interpreter, I forget, who describes the Persian way of speaking too. It was quite hilarious. So that year we had gone to the mother in the corridor in our costumes, and mother said, I won't come, but I will see with other eyes. I will look at your program in other eyes. And she reviewed all of us one after another. And when she came to me, I was in a pink sort of gown and, with flares and all. And she did a reverence, Mademoiselle Jourdain. For her music on Sundays also, she had invited me like that. May I invite you to listen? But she had, in a roundabout way, praised, because that very day Shunilda also had come, and mother had told Pranavda, when there are people who love my music, who are present, it is easier to play. And one day, I used to watch her fingers on the organ, and I used to always find there was like light coming out of her fingers when she was playing. And one day I saw that there was a blue shade in the light, in the fingers that way. It used to like as if it was floating, over the. That evening when she listened to her music, she used to listen to the recorded music and give the title. That day when she listened to the music, she said, Krishna played it through. So I think we can stop there.
Yes. And we'll meet tomorrow.
Tomorrow for the recording.
Yes. Yes. Thank you.
I have told Sushil that I'll give him a set of my photographs from
Good.
childhood, so that at each portion when we change over,
Yes,
the
wonderful.
photograph of my
Yes.
childhood is there, and then a
Excellent.
little older than a little older.
Wonderful.